Hello Lee, this is the testing video for your LS430 2000-2003 manual harness. As you see, it's all been fully rebuilt, so it's all brand new wire. Everything is labeled. Hopefully you can see that, so I'm just using the light because there's going to be some dark spaces in a minute, but yeah, everything is labeled for you. These are obviously designed to clamp down here on the original points, so you can see where the branches are. Okay. And coming on the other side, we've designed this basically to clamp here on one of these bolts over here. As you can see, it lines up with the bolts there. Runs all the way down here, and again, everything is labeled for you, so nice and easy to plug in. Got your cam sensor at the front here. The harness runs down here, so you'll see here there's little holes here. You should have clips inside there to hold it in place. And then it splits off down to here, and it goes through this little hole here. Around the back here, comes out for your cam sensor, and then obviously my oil pressure sensor is here. Yours would be the same, so that's exactly how it'll go. And then you've got your lambda sensor that runs down there, and you can see we've got an earth on the block there. All right, so that's basically how the harness goes. And then you've got your grommet, your plugs all into your ECU. You've got your two plugs for your fuse box. And then you've got your plug, that's the customer plug. That's basically the one you're going to wire into your car. And I'll go through in a minute all of those wires. It's really nice and simple. And in this case, we've obviously got a cluster in here as well, because we're going to be testing RPM. We're going to be testing the check engine light that comes in the corner there. So as you can see, they're all wired in there for that. I've got two LEDs here. One is for your oil light, one is for your alternator light. Oil light's on because I've got it fed to a power, and obviously the oil is earthing out at the moment. All right, and you've got your fuse box which controls everything. So you've got two relays for the engine management system, a starter relay and a fuel pump relay. Okay, what we're basically going to be going through and testing is we've got things we'll test with the engine off and things with the engine on. So we'll be once we put the ignition on, we'll test all the dash lights. So make sure check engine light comes on there, make sure alternator light comes on there. Then we'll go through the OBD2 machine, which I've already actually got on there, but yeah, we'll go through that, but you can see it's LS430. Then we'll test the fuel pump via the tech stream, so you'll actually see the fuel pump come on and off. The fuel pump is controlled via the ECU. I do have a good video if you want to look back on how all the different types of fuel systems works, but just so you got the information, these don't prime the fuel pump. They'll only run when they receive a starter signal, so 12 volts when it's cranking, and they'll continue to run as long as there's a crank sensor signal coming to the ECU. As soon as that stops, fuel pump stops running. It'll run for a few seconds after you turn the car off, but that's absolutely fine and normal. That's how it works. All right, so when the engine is running, we'll test the drive-by wire. So just to come over this side over here. Obviously we fitted your LS430 pedal sensor plug. I've just adapted it to our IS250 pedal. It's a 2 meter long harness. That's this section over here. So that you'll obviously run from the fuse box over to the other side of the car where the pedal is. Okay, so we'll test that and make sure that works. I'll probably do it as soon as I turn it on. It's just that you'd actually hear it revving up. Then we'll test the VVT-i solenoid. So what you're going to hear is the engine going to a really weird sound because it advances the cams quite aggressively. Then we'll go through the tach. So we'll actually have a look up here, make sure tach signal's coming through. Then what we'll do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to unplug each injector at a time. Just to show that each cylinder is firing correctly. So we'll get a miss as soon as I pull the injector out. That'll test injectors and coils. Starter, straightforward. I mean, if I crank the wire and the engine starts up, we know the starter works. The ACIS, that's acoustic control induction system. So that's this little valve over here. So once it starts up, you're going to see that valve is going to shoot down like that. All right. So the ACIS is basically 8 butterfly valves that live in here. And this is in the open position. So it's got a short intake runner length. When it closes those valves, the intake runner length goes from one side completely over the top to the other. So long runner length when it's closed, short runner length when it's open. That's what the ACIS system does. Okay, and then we'll go and we'll check on the OBD2 machine that we haven't got any codes, because obviously this is a manual, so we remapped it to get rid of all the automatic gearbox codes. So you'll see there's nothing on the ECU there at all. Okay, so to start off with, we're just going to go through this plug here quickly. Now obviously here you've got your OBD2 port coming out of here. You've got your pedal coming out of here. Those are obviously all pre-terminated for you. So in terms of the actual wires that you've got in here, now you will get a welcome pack with all of this, but you've got 2 red with a blue, That is your permanent 12 volt supply, so it needs a permanent 12 volt, not an ignition 12 volts. You've got your gray one, and that is your fuel pump. Obviously, I've got that hooked up here, so we can use the fuel pump here. All right, so going through the other ones now, we've got black with a red, that's your ignition, so 12 volts ignition. We've got black with a yellow, that's your starter signal, so that's 12 volt signal for your starter. We've got yellow with the black, that's your oil light. Pink with the blue, that's your alternator light. Yellow is your tacho signal. Yellow and red, that's your check engine light. And this white with a blue, I call that a clutch switch. Basically, if you don't have a clutch switch, you just connect it straight to earth. So you'll see that just go straight to the earth of the battery. All right, if you don't connect it to earth, the starter relay won't click. All right. And so that's pretty much, oh sorry, and you've got yellow with a green. Now yellow with a green is for a temp sensor. Now what we've done on the harness here is we've actually left that free, so it is labeled temp. We've left that free for you to put whatever terminal is required for whatever sensor you're going to use. And if you look down in here, you'll see there's a bolt there. You can take that out and fit a coolant temp sensor. So there's your coolant temp sensor for the ECU. Don't touch that one. Undo that bolt. It's over there, so I'm going to try and get it. There you go, there's a nice shot. Okay, so that bolt you can undo, and you can fit whatever temperature sensor is going to work with your vehicle. All right, so to get started, we're going to put the ignition on. So I'm going to put the camera down for a second. Just bear with me. Okay. Okay, so I'm just simply giving it 12 volts. Fantastic. Okay, so you've seen the LED in the fuse box. That's your check engine light. So we do fit that in just in case you haven't got a chance to wire the one in the car, so you can actually see that everything is turning on when you put the ignition on. You'll see the check engine light is working over there. You'll now see that we've got two LEDs, so oil and alternator for that. Okay, so obviously I've already lined this up, but it's a LS430. It is picking it up on the OBD2 machine. So we'll go into engine and ECT. Okay, just decided to freeze on me. All right, so we'll leave that to work for a minute. So what we'll basically do is we're happy with the dash lights, we're happy with the OBD2. We're going to test the fuel pump now while that's busy loading up. Now you can hear when you switch everything on, it's completely silent. And all I'm going to basically do is press the pedal down, and hopefully you can hear that. Okay, so we're happy the pedal all works. Let's see if the OBD2 machine has come back to life. Okay. Okay, so there you go. That's going to automatically detect it. Alright, it doesn't matter which option you choose there. Now obviously this is a Toyota tester, so it's like a handheld tech stream. Obviously if you've got like a Bluetooth dongle, you'll have a different interface and so on. But obviously this is just to demonstrate that obviously everything is wired up correctly and it is actually working. So we'll just go through that. Not the fastest machine in the world. Okay, let's just give that a minute. It's going to take a while. Okay, so while we're waiting, just remember these things at the back of the engine, these are not fuel pressure regulators, they're fuel pulsation dampers. So you'll see that screw is raised up. Okay, when you've got no fuel pressure, that screw goes all the way in. As soon as you have fuel pressure, it comes up. Now remember, the 3Z is a deadhead system, so it does require fuel pressure regulation externally of the engine. All right, so not like the 1UZ non-VVT-i that has a built-in fuel pressure regulator. So what I've got here is basically just a VW Golf or Polo or whatever fuel filter with a built-in regulator. Relatively cheap, easy to use. If you use something like this, what I would normally do is just have this close to the tank. That way your return line is quite short. And you only have one line then running from the front over to the side over here, so it makes a nice uncomplicated run to the front of the vehicle. Okay, right, so now we're back in again. So again, yeah, picked up LS430. So we're just going to go into the engine stuff. Right, okay. So we'll first go into data list, make sure that we're getting all of our readings correct. Apologies, this is not the fastest machine on the planet. And there you go. So I have had the engine running for a bit, so it's 39 degrees, 28 degrees intake air. It is that hot today. Obviously you've got your throttle position, idle signal is on because the pedal's completely, not depressed. Okay, so we're going to go into active test now. And this is the same active test we'll go into to do the oil control valves. So you'll see we can test a whole bunch of stuff. So we're just going to go into fuel pump. Now you see fuel pump relay. That is a little bit confusing. Do go watch my video and I explain to you what that actually means. The fuel pump relay is not what you think it means. It's not actually the fuel pump relay. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flick the fuel pump on. I'm going to move it over to here. You should hear the fuel pump running. There you go. Right, and I'm going to go over to the fuse box. You can hear the relay clicking. Okay, so that's all groovy. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to fire the engine up. We're going to test the drive-by-wire. So I'll give it a little blip of the revs just so you can see that that's working. We'll go back to the tech stream. We'll do the VVT-i solenoids. We'll look at the tach signal on the cluster, and then we'll move over to the injectors. So, as I said, black with the yellow. That's obviously your starter signal. So we're just going to give that 12 volts, and away she's going to go. Once it starts going, it's going to be loud because there's no exhaust. So I'm going to carry on talking. If you can hear me, great. If not, we're just going to go through that list as you saw there. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the lights have gone out. All right. Check engine light is not on. Tacho is working. Okay. Okay, pedal. That's it. So happy with all of that. So everything works. We've checked all the cylinders individually. They're all firing. So as soon as we pull them out, they misfire. We've tested both oil control valve solenoids. So we know that the wiring is correct and they work. We know that the ACIS works. As you can see, it's gone back up again now. Okay, so nice and simple. All you've basically got to do is you've got your sub harness here. So that's your little white bracket over there. There's your main power cable, which I've got connected to the battery. So that's a separate harness section. There'll be a photo at the end showing you what it looks like underneath here. So stick around for that. And then you'll see all the photos, also the build and the completed harness itself. And then all you've got to basically do is connect the main power up to there, and then coming around to the alternator, you've just got your main power off your alternator here. So there's your alternator plug that goes in the back, there's your lambda plug that goes in there, and so that's basically it. Connect the wires up, connect the fuel, main power for the starter, main power for the alternator. Now that alternator usually ran to 120 amp fuse. So if you're just running it to sort of like a distribution block or whatever, just run it, get like a MIDI fuse or something that's 120 amps and put that in there, so that'll fuse that and give you protection there. Okay, and obviously here's your ACIS valve. So what I normally say to people to do is just to test this, you can just supply 12 volts to it relatively quickly, and you'll hear the clicking underneath. So the actual solenoid itself is underneath, and it's actually, there's like a little black sort of vacuum canister underneath here, and that goes over there. All right, so that's basically it. It should be really, really nice and simple and straightforward. P-clamps on the harness to keep it on. Everything is labeled for you, so it should go on relatively straightforward. You've got earths at the back here, so this is for your coils on this bank. This one, you've got two earths over here. One is for the engine ECU and the other one is for the coils. All right, and then you need an earth on the block. As you see, I've got one on the other side there for the actual block for the starter. And then normally what I do is, not in this case, but you'll see you've got two holes underneath here, and over here you've got another hole there, and you've got another hole there as well. So feel free to take a little earth strap from there over to the chassis as well. It's useful to have as much earth as possible. Toyota do love earths, so you go from there. And then obviously the pedal, you're just going to plug in the pedal on your side once you have it fitted. Just one thing to bear in mind is the pedals for the LS and the GS and the SC, they're obviously different from this one over here. This one is a completely enclosed unit. All right, so the one thing to bear in mind is you'll need some kind of OBD2 diagnostics to go through, because those pedals can go effectively out of range. I don't know if that's going to make sense to you, but they can go too far and cause the throttle to shut down. So what you'll notice is when you fit the pedal, you're going to have to put a stopper behind it. And then what you're going to want to do is keep pressing the pedal, keep pressing the pedal, keep pressing the pedal. But what you will hear is you will hear the throttle actually go like click and shut down. So once you go too far, it'll go click and shut down. So once you've reached that point, adjust your stopper so that basically the pedal will not go forward. Now, what I would advise is obviously to really slam your foot into the floor, just to make sure you don't ever reach that particular point. Okay, when you are doing this and you're looking at the throttle position, if you're looking at sort of either what like a tech stream like I've got there, or tech stream on a laptop, or sort of a OBD2 diagnostic Bluetooth thingy, the pedal will not go all the way to 100%. It'll go to, I think, about 85%, and that's it. And that's to do with the way that Toyota work the signals up. There's two signals for the pedal, and there's two signals for the throttle body itself. That's a safety precaution. The thing is that these signals, the main signal goes from 0 to 5 volts. The other one actually tops out before at about sort of anywhere from 75 to 85%. So what you're actually seeing is you're seeing the second signal. So when you go actually foot flat to the floor, you're not actually seeing the first signal. As far as I'm aware, you're seeing the second signal, so that actually tops out and then sort of levels off. Even though the pedal's going more, it sort of hits a point and then levels off like that and goes from there. So people get confused all the time. They don't see 100% on the diagnostic machine. That is completely normal. Basically just keep moving the pedal until you hear the throttle click to turn off, and then that's your point where you want to just adjust the stopper a few millimeters less than that, and then you'll be absolutely fine. But you'll know what I mean. It's, if you go too far, the throttle will just completely shut down, and it won't do anything until you actually turn the ignition off, back on again, and then the pedal will be alive. So just bear that in mind when you're fitting the pedal, because I know that sometimes confuses people and they say my throttle keeps dying. That is the reason why. If it becomes like way too much of a ball ache, that's why we use these pedals here. Because of the plastic casing, there's no risk of that. There's no risk of it actually, going beyond its range, if you will, and the ECU freaking out and going, oh, something's wrong, shut the throttle down, I'm not happy. So yeah, just bear that in mind to get that set up correctly for there. But yeah, that's it. So as you can see, the ECU has been remapped. We did put the pops and bangs on for you. So they will obviously only be on deceleration. And what we've done to try and make it a bit less yobbish, if you will, is when you come off the accelerator, when you are decelerating, you need to keep the throttle down a little bit in order for the pops and bangs to work. So if you just completely come off the throttle, they won't come on. It's just a feature we added because obviously we know not everybody wants pops and bangs all of the time. So there is a sort of a technique in order to do it. So you're not having pops and bangs every single time you go down the road. But yeah, that's it. So next step is get this in a box and we'll get it on its way to you. All right, thank you for watching and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.